Hello everyone! In this video I'm going to show you some downhill landings which are not very common, difficult to find, and also will show you 4 different state airports in the state of Washington. These airports are quite popular and it's a lot of fun to fly into them. The setting in the Cascades are just beautiful. First we're going to start with Teton. This is a long grass runway. It is very wide, and here is where I find the downhill landings when coming from the mountain. Downhill landings are not very common. They're not difficult, but it is tricky to make a smooth landing because you're losing the ground all the time. This is our approach into Teton. By looking just at the water, which is glassy, you know there is no wind. Looking if there's some airplanes down below or some obstacles. In the past, more than one time I have found cows on the runway. Also have found ducks and other kinds of big birds. So it's always good to have a look, even sometimes you cannot see them from the air. Here we're starting our left base. There is plenty of room. When it is really windy, I don't recommend this approach because it gets very nasty close to the trees. Now we are on final. Here is where I'm going to land downhill. And the trick is that the ground goes from underneath you, so you're flaring, but the ground is like moving below you and you're getting more ground. So what I try to do is kind of a soft landing technique with power. Here is a view from the outside, from the same landing. You will see when I am thinking I'm going to touch down, the airplane stays in the same altitude, but the ground goes below me, so I kind of touch down a little bit harder than I wanted to. And I bounce a little bit. What I found tricky is to make smooth downhill landings. The reason I approach from the mountain is not only because it is more fun, it is also more safe. Here we spot some cows on the runway, so we avoid them, climb a little bit and land longer, but there were also big birds we could not see, and they come really close to the airplane. So I landed long, and because there is a easy go around, there was no risk. What we didn't see were the big birds that were in the middle of the strip when we touched down, and they were kind of close to us. So even if we needed to do a late go around, we would have been fine. Now I'm going to show you the landing coming from the lake. It is pretty easy, no obstacles, and there is a long grass strip that is uphill, so it will also help you slow down. I'm coming slow because I like to practice all the time landing at slow speeds. I think it is safer on a tailwheel airplane to land slow, so there is less opportunity for a ground loop, and I'm still a low-time pilot flying the tailwheel airplane. Taking off from Teton, I always recommend to take off towards the lake. There are no obstacles, and you can climb even if you have an airplane with low power. You can climb safely. It is always good to be aware of density altitude. It can get hot and you can get high density altitude days in Teton. Even if it's no obstacles, still if you come with a underpowered airplane and heavy loaded, it can be a problem. The only other place I found kind of downhill landing is in the farmer's field we land in Skykomish, but this one is kind of rolling, but it has big dips. You can see the airplane is almost disappear when it goes down into one of the dips. With the nose dragger, you have to time it right. You don't want to land when the dip is going up. You can hit your propeller. This next state airport is Skykomish. Also, it's a mountain airport in Washington. Beautiful setting, long grass strip, big trees on both ends. I'm coming slow with 40 degrees of flaps in the Cessna 182. On all these mountain strips, what you are trying to avoid is coming too fast and float. Then maybe you try a late go around and there are big trees, and that's where the problems start. As you can see from this video, the 182 performs really well in this kind of airstrips. Although my 182 is heavily modified, the next airplane in the video is a stock Cessna 182. This Cessna 182 has the stock wing, P-Punk motor, and bigger tires, but no VGs or no stall kit. He does a nice steep approach at slow speed. You will see he won't float and makes the landing pretty short and with plenty of room left. Skykomish, you can land from both ways. You can land from the east or from the west. Now I've been showing you landing from the east. There is one more we catch with the drone, landing from the east. This time I am on the Cessna 170 and I try to do a wheel landing, so I have to come a little bit faster than if I come to do a 3-point landing. This strip is not super smooth, but even wheel pants will do fine. There are not big holes, just a little rough, but nothing major. Now this next landing, I'm coming in the Cessna 170. This is a landing from the west to the east. If you come from the west, the trees are a little smaller, so it's kind of an easier approach, and there is a slight uphill, so that also helps slowing down quicker. For the takeoff, if there is no wind, I recommend taking off towards the west. The trees are smaller and the terrain goes downhill, so you are not taking off towards rising terrain, where if you take off towards the east, you will be taking off towards rising terrain, which is more challenging, but it also can be done. Now you can see a Cessna 182 taking off, so it will give you an idea how it performs. 182s perform really well in the backcountry. Pilot uses a great technique, which is staying ground effect until VX and then he can climb. Now we're going to see the same takeoff with the view from the drone. This was a typical day in the Pacific Northwest. Some clouds that make the scenery very pretty. This next strip is Ranger Creek. It's in a valley. You can see Mount Rainier in the background. We're going to turn into the valley and fly and land to the north. Ranger Creek, you can land both ways. I have only taken off towards the north. I always say that if this strip was grass, it would be the best backcountry strip in Washington. It is paved and it's still fun. This is the website where you can find all the information about Washington state airports. When are they open? Ranger Creek is a beautiful place and has facilities for camping, and although it is paved, it is not open year round. Coming from the north to land south, usually it is more difficult to find a strip. There are lots of trees in the valley and it's difficult to locate it. It is very common to end up quite high. So you need to know the altitudes and know your mountains when you are approaching to land. Once the strip is located, it is a pretty easy, clear approach. So the actual challenge when you come from the north landing south is to locate the strip and not end up too high. And this last strip I'm going to show you is Bandera, also a state airport in Washington. This strip you can land both ways, take off both ways. It's surrounded by big trees. It is next to I-90 highway, you can see on my right. This strip can get really wet and soggy, so you have to be careful and be aware. Always you have to check if the state airport is open before going. Here we just landed to the west. Now this next landing is landing towards the east, coming from the west. This airstrip is surrounded by tall trees, so you have to do a steep approach every time. So these are the most popular state airports in Washington, backcountry strips in the mountains, beautiful settings, and they're pretty easy for a novice pilot if you go in the right conditions. You can take off to the west or to the east. If there is no wind, I recommend taking off towards the west because the terrain is not rising, so it will be less challenging. Thank you for watching, and if you want to support Backcountry 182 YouTube, please join me on Patreon, and I would really appreciate it. See you next time. It is very easy to join, to be a patron of Backcountry 182. Go to the YouTube channel. On the right hand side there is the link, and then it takes you to the Patreon page. Here you can see all the tiers and what is all about, the support for Backcountry 182 YouTube channel. Also, another way to access the Patreon link is in the description of the video I put in YouTube. On Backcountry 182 channel there is a link for Patreon, so just click on that and it will take you to the page. Thank you for watching, and it will be amazing if you guys are interested and give some support.
Hi, I'm Dana, Larry's wife, and today we're excited to announce the launching of Patreon for our YouTube channel Backcountry 182, which give fans and friends the opportunity to support creators like Larry and myself by paying a monthly amount and receiving exclusive content. So with your support through Patreon, we will be able to make more and better content more often and new videos. And Larry can connect with you more personally to hear your questions and concerns and what would you like to see. The really cool thing of being a patron is that every dollar amount does help. So go ahead and check out the tiers. You can be a fan and look through our goals to see what we will be able to achieve together at every level of support. Come join us and be part of our adventure.